Following the death of King Viserys in 132 AC, the Green faction, headed by the Queen and Hand of the King Sir Otto Hightower, usurped the Iron Throne, declaring Alicent's eldest son, Aegon, King of Westeros, while on Dragonstone, the Black faction crowned the chosen heir Rhaenyra, beginning the Dance of the Dragon civil war. Seeking allies, the Queen sent her eldest son Jacaerys on diplomatic missions to the Vale and North, while her second son Lucerys failed to win over the Stormlands, and was attacked by his uncle Aemond One-Eye in the dance over Shipbreaker Bay. Though Aemond only meant to harass and bully the boy, Vhagar proved overly aggressive, resulting in the death of Lucerys and his dragon Arrax. Meanwhile, Jacaerys successfully won over the Vale by promising a dragon to protect their territory and forged a friendship with Lord Cregan Stark of Winterfell, joining him on a visit to the Wall, where the North pledged to support the Queen but could not send a great army until winter had passed. Yet Jacaerys made clear the urgency of their need, and so Lord Stark agreed to immediately send a smaller army of 2,000 Winter Wolves, well-honed elders who would fight hard for the Blacks. Yet the triumph of Jacaerys was soured when he learned his brother Lucerys was killed. Back on Dragonstone, Rhaenyra's grief left her unable to fulfill any responsibilities as queen, instead flying on Syrax to search for the remains of her son. Frustrated nothing could be done without his wife, the king consort Daemon Targaryen tried to order their ally Rhaenys to aid him in attacking the capital, where their dragons Caraxes the Bloodworm and Meleys the Red Queen might have a chance against Vhagar. But Rhaenys refused to obey as he was not the ruling monarch. When at last the Queen found the remnants of Lucerys, she brought him back to Dragonstone, where she learned House Velaryon set up a sea blockade of the capital, and Daemon was ready to start an army in the Riverlands. Ignoring these developments, she wanted Aemond held to account, comforted Jace upon his return, and held a funeral for her deceased son. Realizing his wife could not focus on the war, Daemon saw an opportunity to seek vengeance on her behalf when told his former lover, Mysaria the White Worm, was arrested trying to leave the capital as a stowaway on a ship. With the help of this once powerful underworld spy master, Daemon snuck into King's Landing and made contact with Blood, a Hightower-hating Gold Cloak, and Cheese, a rat catcher familiar with the tunnel system under the Red Keep, promising great rewards if they could infiltrate the castle and murder Aemond Targaryen, as this would be a son for a son. When asked what to do if Aemond could not be reached, Daemon possibly gave secondary instructions. Sneaking into the castle, Blood and Cheese did not find Aemond, but eventually found Queen Helaena and her twins Jacaerys and Jaehaera, threatening her life until she revealed which was her son. Blood then cut off his head and they escaped, while Helaena took the girl and walked in on her mother Alicent in bed with the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, Sir Criston Cole, somberly announcing they killed the boy. After a night of chaos, the Green Small Council met, and in spite of the king's reluctance, held a public funeral procession, both to inspire hatred for Rhaenyra the Cruel and garner support from the population. Though King Aegon had little interest or aptitude for administration, he showed signs of empathy when addressing the petitions of his subjects, but that all fell away upon the death of his son, as Aegon raged, demanding bloody vengeance. When Larys Strong announced they apprehended Blood trying to leave the city with the head of his victim, Aegon allowed for a brief interrogation to learn he was hired by Daemon and worked with a rat catcher whose name was not known. Once the information was given, Aegon beat the man to death and ordered all city rat catchers hanged, which included the other assailant, Cheese. Feeling shame for his dereliction of duty, Sir Criston Cole lashed out and projected his guilt upon the Kingsguard, Sir Auric Cargyll, ordering him to assassinate Rhaenyra by posing as his twin brother Sir Eric, who served in the Queensguard on Dragonstone. Thrilled to hear of this mission, the king's joy was spoiled by Sir Otto Hightower, who berated his grandson, not only for this foolish mission doomed to failure, but also because he hanged so many innocent rat catchers, losing all the goodwill they bought with the funeral procession. As Hand of the King, Otto advocated for patience, slowly gathering allies and raising armies in the Reach and Westerlands, while Queen Mother Alicent still hoped for a peaceful solution, sending Rhaenyra a message of consolation and regret for the death of Lucerys. Though Otto and Alicent were at odds over past mistakes, they soon agreed to work together as voices of reason on the small council. Yet Aegon did not see the value in his grandfather's wisdom, and so after his admonishment, stripped Otto of his rank to name Criston Cole Hand of the King. Shocked and outraged, Otto informed Alicent he would leave for Old Town to prepare his youngest grandson Daemon Targaryen for a position of leadership in the war to come. Alicent, meanwhile, would try and convince the king he must return Otto to his position as Hand. Over on Dragonstone, Rhaenyra faced accusations from her own small council, as everyone believed she was behind the assassination of Jacaerys. Yet upon seeing Daemon's smirk, she realized the truth, and when meeting in private, had an enormous argument, in which he claimed his target was Aemond, and killing the child was a mistake. Rhaenyra struggled to believe it, and accused him of disloyalty. Angered by her words, Daemon mounted Caraxes and left for the Riverlands, where he originally planned to raise an army for the queen, but now considered claiming the crown for himself. Losing her most valuable dragon rider, Rhaenyra started to rely more heavily on the others, assigning Daemon's daughter Baela to scout the capital and surrounding lands on her young dragon Moondancer. Though Sir Auric found no honor in his assignment, he was duty-bound to obey, and so successfully infiltrated Dragonstone, only to be spotted by Mysaria, who reported him to the guards. Making it all the way to Rhaenyra's room, Sir Auric was interrupted by his brother Sir Eric, engaging in the legendary Duel of the Cargyll twins, where Sir Eric killed his brother, apologized to the queen, and took his own life. Horrified by her near assassination, Rhaenyra sent her younger children, Joffrey, Aegon, and Viserys to safety in the Vale, along with Tyraxus, Stormcloud, and 4 dragon eggs. As Daemon's younger daughter Rhaena was not a dragon rider, she was given charge of the mission, ordered to act as a mother to the children and next generation of dragons. Despite the bloodshed thus far, Rhaenyra was reluctant to start the war in earnest, earning contempt and mockery from her counselors who saw her as weak, encouraging some of their beliefs that a woman was not fit for leadership in wartime. Even Jacaerys was dismayed by her inaction, though his loyalty did not allow him to voice concerns. When Baela reported green soldiers marching through the Crownlands, the council urged the use of dragons, as the Blacks had Syrax, Caraxes, Meleys, Vermax, and Moondancer ready for combat, while the Greens had only Vhagar and Sunfire, as young Tessarion in the Reach was untested, and powerful Dreamfire was bonded to Helaena, who was in no way a warrior. Still, Rhaenyra refused to press her advantage, fearing the use of dragons would unleash a level of devastation that could not be undone. Ignoring her counselors and son, the queen instead worked with Mysaria, concocting a plan to dress Rhaenyra as a septa and smuggle her into the capital, accompanied only by the Lord Commander of her Queen's Guard, Sir Steffon Darklyn. Knowing Alicent Hightower often prayed at the Great Sept, Rhaenyra held her at knife point so they might speak of a possible end to the war. Shocked and confused by her presence, Alicent made it clear she had little power in the small council, and peace was no longer an option. Nevertheless, she allowed a disheartened Rhaenyra to leave without consequence. Unable to find the queen, the Black Council grew restless and indignant by her continued failure as a leader, only settling down when Lord Corlys arrived and demanded calm. When Rhaenyra at last returned, the council grew ever more perplexed and angry when she explained her absence was due to a failed and extremely risky mission of peace to the capital. Though House Velaryon supported the queen, they also struggled with their own problems, as Rhaenys insisted Corlys must name a new heir to Driftmark, choosing between their grandchildren, Joffrey Velaryon and Rhaena Targaryen. But he hesitated, knowing there may be other options as well, having fathered Adam and Alan, 2 illegitimate boys in the town of Hull. Alan even proved his worth as a sailor after saving the life of Corlys during the War for the Stepstones. But the Sea Snake was reluctant to offer reward and elevation, fearing his wife might learn the truth. Nevertheless, it was not long before Rhaenys met Alan and immediately recognized her husband in his features. Though upset, she did not take it out on his son, and even argued on his behalf, stating he deserved recognition for his heroism. Over in the capital, the new hand Sir Criston Cole presented a plan devised with Aemond to march their army through the Crownlands, growing their forces by defeating Black allied houses before reaching Harrenhal to secure the loyalty of the Riverlands. Though Aegon was eager to join them on Sunfire, they explained the king could not risk his own life, but he was quick to suspect they simply did not believe in his abilities as a warrior. Growing angry and resentful, Aegon tried on the armor of his namesake, Aegon the Conqueror, and grew closer to Larys Strong, naming him Master of Whispers. Considering his options, Aegon went out drinking with his oafish friends he named to the King's Guard, ending up at a brothel where they found Aemond in bed with the same prostitute to whom he lost his virginity as a child. As Aegon mocked and humiliated his brother in front of the others, who dared not laugh, Aemond stewed with anger before departing. As for Sir Criston Cole, he asked for the favor of his lover the Queen Mother before leading the army out of the city, accompanied by Sir Gawain Hightower, brother to Alicent and son of Sir Otto. Successfully converting the houses Rosby and Stokeworth from black to green, they next sacked the city of Duskendale and beheaded their lord before marching on Rook's Rest, a small castle headed by Lord Staunton, who served on Rhaenyra's small council. Although Aemond tried to explain their plan to Aegon, stating the castle was easily won and would cut Rhaenyra off from the mainland, the king was upset they plotted behind his back and demanded they instead take Harrenhal. Seizing the opportunity to repay his brother's mockery and demonstrate his superior intellect, Aemond replied in fluent High Valyrian, to which Aegon could not properly reply, embarrassing him in front of the council. Angry and humiliated, Aegon next spoke to his mother, who felt ill because of the moon tea she drank to avoid pregnancy, and as a result offered no consolation to her son, instead berating him for his foolish attitude and dismissal of Otto Hightower. Reaching his breaking point, Aegon showed a moment of vulnerability by sincerely asking for his mother's advice, to which she coldly replied he should do nothing, implying he was of no use to the kingdom. Realizing his own family did not respect him, Aegon grew ever more angry, bitter, and drunk, making the reckless decision to don his armor and fly Sunfire into battle without informing anyone. To the north, the army of Criston Cole reached Rook's Rest, where Lord Staunton sent a message to Dragonstone pleading for aid. While Rhaenyra bravely offered to fight herself, the queen's life could not be risked, and so Rhaenys volunteered to fly Meleys into battle. Expecting a response from Dragonstone, the Green Army laid a trap by sending ground forces first, while Aemond and Vhagar hid some distance away, ready to emerge when necessary. Yet much to the surprise of everyone, it was not Aemond who challenged Rhaenys, but Aegon on Sunfire, as they disrupted the plan by thoughtlessly flying straight to Rook's Rest. Realizing she faced a fool, Rhaenys and Meleys made quick work of the enemy, slashing, tearing, and breathing fire upon them. Though the victory of Rhaenys was nearly spoiled when Aemond and Vhagar suddenly appeared, they instead betrayed their king with a devastating fire attack that sent both Aegon and Sunfire crashing to the ground. Receiving a temporary respite from battle, Rhaenys had this one chance to escape back to Dragonstone, but in the end decided to stay and defend their ally, defiantly pressing the attack against Vhagar, the oldest and largest of the Targaryen dragons. Though she fought bravely, Vhagar eventually bit the neck of Meleys and ended her life, knocking Rhaenys out of the sky and to her death. On the ground, many soldiers from both sides were killed in the wreckage of this dragon battle, but with the fall of Meleys, the Greens took the advantage and stormed the enemy castle, all save Criston Cole, who seemed traumatized by what he saw, and frantically rode to the king, where he found Aemond with sword in hand. Though Aegon and Sunfire remained alive, they were badly wounded and burned, requiring immediate medical attention. While the nobles fought battles and played their Game of Thrones, the smallfolk of the capital suffered from the blockade, forcing the blacksmith Hugh to petition the crown for coin to continue their work. Though the crown agreed, no coin ever came, and Hugh grew increasingly upset he could not provide for his wife and sick daughter. Facing struggles of his own, Ulf, another commoner with white hair, told stories for free drinks, with his most popular tale describing his supposed dragonseed lineage as the bastard son of Balon the Brave, making him a half-brother to King Viserys, which was why he claimed loyalty to his niece Queen Rhaenyra. As all this went on, the Riverlands was already at war, beginning with the Battle of the Burning Mill, where the ancient enemy houses Blackwood and Bracken faced a border dispute, and so used the conflict as an excuse for open hostilities, with the Blackwoods declaring for Rhaenyra while the Brackens stood for King Aegon. The result was a slaughter with no clear winner, and so hostilities only escalated. Meanwhile, Daemon Targaryen made his own plans for the Riverlands, arriving at Harrenhal upon Caraxes, where the Castellan Sir Simon Strong immediately surrendered and bent the knee to Queen Rhaenyra, claiming no loyalty to the Greens or his nephew Lord Larys Strong, as they accurately suspected he murdered his own father and brother. Though Daemon was slow to trust, he soon faced the unexpected challenge of strange dreams and visions, seeing young Rhaenyra sewing back on the head of Jacaerys, while stating she must always clean up his messes. Unable to sleep properly, Daemon went for a walk and ran into Alice Rivers, a bastard of House Strong, castle healer and possible woods witch, who informed the king she foresaw he would die in this place. The visions then continued, and he next saw young Rhaenyra on the Iron Throne, speaking words he did not want to hear, which did not stop even after he cut her head off. Seeking to meet the Lord Paramount of the Riverlands, Daemon was instead introduced to young Oscar Tully, the heir to Riverrun, who arrived in place of his ailing grandfather. Upon realizing this boy had no actual authority, Daemon casually suggested he kill his own grandfather, and when Oscar refused, the king rudely dismissed him and instead sent for the leader of House Blackwood, as they already shed blood for Queen Rhaenyra. Yet again, his plans were interrupted by unwanted dreams, and even after receiving a sleeping draft from Alice Rivers, he was left barely functional during his meeting with Regent Willem Blackwood, representing his young nephew, Lord Benjacob Blackwood. During their discussion, Daemon saw visions of his deceased wife, Lena Velaryon, but in the end, composed himself enough to make a deal where House Blackwood offered their support in exchange for helping defeat and subdue House Bracken. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Sir Bob of the Buoy, Torque Frostbite, Tim, and Z Packwood. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/CivilizationEx, where you can gain early access to videos, vote on future content, and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.